Hey, welcome to Outsmart Your Guitar. Glad you could join us. In this second lesson in beginning guitar, we're going to give you a few more chords to play, and then you're going to combine them with the chords from the previous lesson to help you become more adept at not just playing all these chords, but then moving between them as well, developing your muscle memory, which we'll get into a little bit more on as well. All right, so without any further ado, let's just get right to it. I just want to remind you that whether you're on electric guitar or acoustic guitar, at this point, it doesn't matter because what you're learning here as a beginner is foundational material that is necessary to both disciplines. So you're good either way. All right, so I just thought I'd bring that up, remind you, and set your mind at ease that you're not on the wrong guitar. It doesn't matter which guitar you're playing. This is stuff you need regardless of which one you're playing. All right, so let's get going. On your screen, you see the G chord. Now, listen carefully as I describe how you're going to play this. Playing with your second, third, and fourth fingers. But the first thing you want to do is get your thumb in the right place. So put your thumb right over the first fret, just barely hanging over the fretboard, on the shoulder. That's what this part is called, where these dots are. That's the shoulder. So just have it on the shoulder, just over the first fret, hanging over the fretboard just a tiny bit. And then what you want to do is you want to drop it down like that, so that it's sitting kind of like that, okay? Then, with your thumb staying in that spot, just kind of let your hand hang down like this, and then reach with your third finger. Now, don't reach like this. Reach like this at an angle so that there's still some air here between the fretboard and your hand. Now, you're reaching to the third fret of the sixth string. Your fourth finger now, and this is why you don't want to be like this, is just going to drop down, and at the third fret of the first string, it's going to be on right there. Now your second finger you plant on the second fret of the fifth string. Take note, you can touch the sixth string because you're playing in front of it, so it doesn't matter. Okay? And the reason you want to touch over here is because you want that fourth string to ring out. So now just play across like that. Now you'll notice the note being played by my second finger isn't really sounding. Now what you can do to get that to sound is basically move like this a little bit so that you're standing this up a little bit more. So if I was to turn like this is how you'd see it. Watch. See, I'm like this, and if I just manipulate a little bit, now it's open a little better. But in all honesty, when I play this, I just set my fingers down. That's the sound. But I've got 5 other strings that make the chords sound great. So if you're getting this much out of it, you're good. Okay? So pause the video and practice this for a moment. Then once you've practiced it, leave your hand in place because your thumb and your 3 fingers that are playing the chord, they need to get comfortable with this. So this is called posing, where you just sit with the chord being held. Your first finger, by the way, is just floating in the air. And you pose with that for a moment, just kind of get it in your thinking. This is how the G chord feels, okay? Once you've done that, go ahead and restart the video and we'll keep going. Get out your chord sheet from the previous lesson because you're going to need, if you don't have it memorized, the E, D, and A chords, all right? So we're going to start with A, and you're going to play 4 beats, 4 strums. And then you're going to move to the G chord. then you're going to move to the D chord. And then to the E chord. And then you're going to start all over again. Now, pay attention here. After you play the A chord, your second finger just needs to hop over one string, slide up a little bit, and your thumb drops down, and then you form the rest of the G chord. Now, pay attention to these two fingers, because I'm going to talk about this later on. Whoops. Move these over together. Get rid of that and move them over as a single unit all the way over to the first and second strings. Same orientation. And then drop your first finger down on the third string to finish the D. Bring your thumb in and mute the low E. Now to move to the E chord, this finger, slide back one and move these fingers over here. And then you know to move between here and here for the A. Right? Now, remember, when you're not playing the low E string, your first finger must come in just a little and mute it, like this. And you do that on the A, and you do it on the D chord. Right? So you're playing A, drop your thumb, move your second finger over, G, move those two fingers all the way over, D, and then slide your first finger back, E. If you need to rewind it all to look at explanations, go ahead, do that. It's the beauty of this technology. It doesn't wear out on you. Just rewind and watch it again until you get it, and then pause the video and practice going through this progression, 4 strums per chord. Then, when you're ready to continue, press play. What you're looking at is the B7 chord. Now, listen carefully. I want you to play an E chord. Trust me. Right? Okay? Now, listen carefully. I want you to take your third finger, which is on the 4th string at the 2nd fret, and move it over to the 3rd string at the 2nd fret. I want you to take your first finger, which is on the 3rd string at the 1st fret, and move it to the 4th string at the 1st fret. So basically, your 1st and 3rd fingers are swapping strings from this to that. Take your 4th finger and bring it in on the 1st string at the 2nd fret. Now, notice that this first joint here, this part of the finger, is almost straight up and down. Take note too, the 2nd finger is touching the low E string because it's not part of the chord. And I'm using the 2nd finger as insurance to make sure that it's dead, right? Now, the reason you want to crowd over into the 6th string is because the note being played by your first finger is on the 4th string. So you don't want this. At first, you'll probably get a little bit, and that's part of why you stand up and crowd into that string. Same thing with these. You want to get close to, but not touching the 4th string with your 3rd finger. Your 4th finger, you just kind of hang out and make sure it's not touching the 2nd string because that's open, and you want to hear that too. That's the ideal. Now, it'll take you a little while to get this. Just work it out and manipulate your fingers a little bit to get everything where you can hear everything clean and clear. All right? So pause the video, practice this chord for a little bit, and then when you're ready to continue, press play. Let's put the B7 to work here in a progression. So we have an E, an A, and the B7. So start with E, 4 strums, 4 beats. Move over to the A, back to the E, to the B7. And now back to the E. Okay, now when you play this, play the E for 4, right? Remember this connection, hop it over, add your little finger, mute the low E. That's your connection. Hop the fingers back over for the E. Swap strings, your first and third finger, and add your fourth finger for the B7. Swap them back, remove your fourth finger for the E, and start over again. Now I want you to also count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. I want you to get used to counting out loud as you play through these, because I want you to understand counting is a very important part of playing music. You need to know where things are occurring time-wise. All right, so pause the video and walk through this. Take your time, 4 strums per chord. Remember your connections, and then when you're ready to continue, press play. All right, here is the C chord. So the first thing you want to do is put your thumb on the shoulder at the first fret, just hanging over a little bit, not a whole lot, and it's going to mute the low E string. Now you just kind of hang down like this and reach with your third finger to the 5th string and the 3rd fret. Now notice I'm touching the low E string with the 3rd finger, because the 2nd finger is going to be on the 4th string at the 2nd fret. It too is touching the 5th string, because I'm playing a fret higher on the 5th string, so it's okay to touch it. This makes sure that the 3rd string will sound. If you don't do it right, you'll get that. So that's why you want to move over there. Get the 2nd finger away from the 3rd string. The 1st finger goes to the 2nd string at the 1st fret. Now, that's a balancing act. You can't touch the 3rd string with your 1st finger, and you can't touch the 1st string with the back side of your 1st finger. So you got to find that balance. So this is what you're going for, right? So now, my thumb is just here as insurance. And I just play all 6 strings. So you just make sure you're getting everybody sounding out. So take your time here, pause the video, work this out 1 string at a time. Now sometimes you're going to have problems with the 3rd or even the 1st finger or both, and you'll just get those 3 notes. And that's not uncommon. So don't get frustrated. Just recognize you're going to have to learn to manipulate your fingers, and the more comfortable you get playing this and any other chord, the more you're going to figure out how you need to manipulate your fingers to get a nice, beautiful sound out of all your chords, whether here in the 1st position or up further on the fretboard. All right? So take your time here, having paused the video, and work it out. Then press play when you're ready to continue. Let's put the C chord to work in a progression. So we got G, C, and D. So form your G chord. Remember, drop your thumb just behind the 1st fret there and have it peeking out over the fretboard a little bit, and start playing. And remember, count 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring your thumb up, move the 2 fingers over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring the 2 fingers over again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put the 2 fingers all the way back over. 2, 3, 4. Then start again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now again, I'm just going to emphasize these don't have to change. You just move them over one string each, like that. Lift your fourth finger off, put your first finger in place, bring your thumb up to mute, and you've got your C. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lift your first finger off, move these two fingers over to the first and second string, add your first finger, mute the low E for the D. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring these two fingers back all the way over, add your fourth finger, drop your thumb back down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then start again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so forth. Okay? Now, just pay attention to that connection there, right? That's a big deal. Pause the video, practice this for a couple of minutes. Get comfortable with moving between these chords, trying to preserve this, all right? Then, when you're ready to continue, you know what to do. I want to focus a little bit on what I was just talking to you about. So you'll notice in the diagram, I've got the G, the C, and the D chords. And you'll notice that the rest of the chord is gray, the fingering for the chord. The fourth finger on the G, the first finger on the C, and the first finger on the D. They're all grayed out because I want you to focus on the second and third fingers. And this is the reason why I prefer playing this version of the G, or with these fingers, that is, versus these fingers. There's a place for this fingering, I'm sure, but for general playing, I do this. And this is why these two fingers, when I move to the C, they just hop over one string each. And you'll notice my fingers are actually kind of joined together, so they move as a unit. And then I bring my first finger in. And then for the D, I just bring them all the way over and then add my first finger, right? And then I can go back to the C, and then I can go back to the G, I can go to the D directly, I can go to the C, to the D, I can go G, D, C, D, back and forth. The object being to practice this. And the other thing you can do is just take these two fingers and hop them over back and forth. Get comfortable making this move, right? Get comfortable moving them as a unit. And it'll get easier over time. Trust me on that. All right? So pause the video and practice these three chords in whatever combination you want to play them. And then just sit and do this too if you want, right? Then press play when you're ready to keep going. An important element in playing guitar is learning your fretboard. Now, this is not critical at this stage, but it's often really nice to start learning this stuff early on because it will benefit you down the road. So the first thing you want to do is you want to put your thumb back here on the spine of the neck at the first fret. And you're going to play the open E. Now you'll notice up here in the diagram it says open E, A, D, G, B, E, right? Well, the E, where all the notes in the vertical are up and down, that's the low E string, this one right here, the sixth string. So you're going to play the open E, and your thumb's on the spine behind the first fret, and you're going to call these out. This is a see, say, hear thing. E, and then your first finger on the first fret of the sixth string, that's F. Your second finger, while keeping your first finger planted, plays the second fret, F sharp. Your third finger, you can let your first finger go, play the third fret, G. Now you can let your second finger go, and you can pivot on your thumb while your third finger is still there to play the fourth fret, G sharp. Slide your thumb on the spine up to the fifth fret, first finger, A. A sharp at sixth, seventh is B, and you can get go of the first two fingers, pivot your thumb to play C at 8. Move your thumb up to 9, and that's C sharp with your first finger. 10 is D, 11 is D sharp, 12 is E, the octave of the open E. Okay, now that's calling out the sharps as you raise your pitch, because when you sharpen something, you are raising the pitch to a higher note. When you play flats, we're doing that in the descending portion. To flatten a note is to lower its pitch. So we're going to do that. Starting with E, and your thumb is at 9. E, then we play E flat, D, D flat. Move your thumb on the spine down to the 5th fret and pivot so your 4th finger is on C8, 3rd finger on B at 7, 2nd finger on B flat at 6, 1st finger at the 5th fret A. Move your thumb down on the spine to the 1st fret, 4th finger plays A flat at 4, 3rd finger plays G at 3, your 2nd finger plays G flat at 2, your 1st finger plays F at 1, and then you play the open string, E. This is a great exercise to help you learn about positional approach to playing things and getting your fingers used to playing single notes, right? And that's the whole idea, both ascending and descending. All right, so pause the video and practice this for a few minutes. Just get comfortable with the note names. On ascending, it's the sharps. On descending, it's the flats. Because when you're saying sharps, you're raising the pitch. When you're saying flats, you're lowering the pitch. So as you ascend, you say sharps because, you know, that's what you're doing when you raise a pitch. You're ascending. And then you say on the descending, the flats, because that's what you're doing when you're lowering a pitch, is flattening it, okay? Then, when you're ready to keep going, press play. All right, we covered a lot of ground here today. Now, I want to talk about muscle memory for a moment, because I mentioned it earlier. What muscle memory is, in case you don't know, is exactly what it sounds like. Your muscles develop a memory. So when you're playing chords, for example, I'm playing an E, right? Now watch how I just snap to a D, and to a C, and to a G, and A, right? B7. I just know these chords. I don't have to think about it. I can just play whatever order I want, right? And they just come. And that's muscle memory. And so you want to learn to play these chords well, because muscle memory will start to kick in. And that's when your fluid motion really begins to take off. And it's awesome when that starts to happen. And it's just going to happen one day, and you're going to go, wait a minute, that's the first time I ever moved that smoothly between those two chords. And that's the idea. All right, one more thing I want to talk to you about is I want you to get 6 pieces of paper, 2 by 2 inches, more or less. And I want you to write down the chords, you know, E, A, D, G, B, 7, and C, right? And put them into a bowl or something and mix them up. And then what I want you to do is I want you to pull out one piece of paper 4 times, 4 different pieces of paper. And in the order you pull them out, I want you to play the chords in that order that you pulled them out. Say you pulled out a G, a B7, a D, and an A. Well, you play the G for 4 beats, the B7 for 4 beats, the D for 4 beats, the A for 4 beats, and then go back to the G, B7, D, A, and play it as a progression for a couple of minutes. Get comfortable making those changes. Push those aside, pull out, well, you've only got 2 more, pull out the final 2, take those 4, put them back in the bowl, mix it up, and pull out 2 more to make a 4-chord progression. Now, let's say you've got an E, a C, a B7 and a G, right? So you play E for 4 beats, you play C for 4 beats, you play B7 for 4 beats, and you play A for 4 beats. I think those were the 4 chords I named. The idea is whatever the 4 chords are, that's what you do. Then you just can keep going. Now, it's not designed to sound good, because what you're actually learning here is moving from any given chord to any other given chord. It's not about sounding nice. As you learn new chords moving forward, get a 2-inch square of paper, write those new chords down, throw them into the pot and mix it up, and keep doing this exercise as you move forward, creating progressions to practice so that you have more things to do, learning to move from any chord to any other chord. Remember, this is about developing muscle memory and fluid motion between chords. All right? Okay, that'll do for this edition. So thank you again for letting me spend this time with you and helping you learn. When you're ready for the next lesson, it will be there. We'll see you soon.